You know, December 14th, 2005 was one of the darkest days in the over 100-year history of Ameren UE and its predecessor, Union Electric. But as I look around today, all I can say is I'm glad that I have been able to take part in the process of reconstructing and rebuilding and getting to the point where we are today. When that event happened, I took a very personal interest. You know, I head up the environmental department at Ameren, so it would logically have fallen upon me anyway. But I spent much of my youth down in Johnson Shut-ins Park. I was always a good citizen then too, just want you to know. But even as I grew older and had children, my parents used to take us down here, and we would always spend at least a week somewhere down along the Black River in this area. So when I saw the devastation, I made a personal commitment as well as a professional one that we were going to do everything we can to resolve this situation quickly and make this park better than it was before. It'll never be the same, but I think we've come through on that commitment to make this a beautiful facility. I also think it's worth noting that none of the cost of this goes to Ameren UE ratepayers. So that was agreed to by the states. I can't say that our insurance companies like us a lot these days, but our ratepayers are not paying for the cost of anything that you see here today. I really wanted to just thank some of the key people who were involved in this project. MagTech Engineering has been the engineering firm that we got in on site very early on. They brought in scientists from all around the country to help look at the ecological damage and restore the rivers and things of that nature. Steve Carter, I think, is out there somewhere. Steve Carter's from the St. Louis office, and he was the project manager from day one. Steve, you out there, I want to appreciate the work that you've done being with us the whole time. There's a few other men from MagTech that deserve some credit. Ron Huffman is a park architect. He specializes in designing parks. He's done it all over the world, and he worked with Jane Lael's team from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources in helping to design this facility and use a lot of the natural products that came from the event in the design of this. So he deserves some credit as well. And of course, I worked over these 5 years with lots of people, some of their senior people like Billy Reed and Bruce Coles, who came down and spent a lot of time down here making sure they got problems resolved. But the most important people to thank is what Bill did, and that is we made a commitment when we started this to hire as many local contractors and people out of the local community to do the work as we can. And we stayed fairly true to that. Over 80% of our workforce was from the area here. And I had an occasion a couple of times during the course of this project to talk to those folks, and there's two things that I want to reiterate here. One is their tremendous safety record. We had a lot of heavy equipment, we moved a lot of stuff, we did a lot of construction, and we had just a couple minor incidents over the 5-year period, and I think that is remarkable for the group. So give yourselves a round of applause for the work that people did when they were down here. And secondly, I always told them to be very proud of their work because they were part of something here. They were putting something together that they can tell their children and grandchildren, and it really becomes a legacy for all of the people in this area for the beautiful facility that they've made. And I think they've done a tremendous job in coming through on that. There's just a couple of folks from my staff that I think deserve recognition. John Pozo and Mike Bollinger, I think you're out there somewhere. These two gentlemen came down here on day one, and they practically lived here for the first 3 years, and rightly so. We had to pay that much attention to it, but it took a big chunk out of their lives for those 3 years. They've been here. They're still working on certain aspects of it, but I wanted to recognize John and Mike for the work they've done over the past 5 years. They put a tremendous effort in this. And finally, DNR, there are so many people that I would like to thank. We just can't get through them. And just to wrap up here, I'm going to just recognize two of them. One is Mr. Dan Page, who's the Deputy Director. Dan, where are you? Dan is over here. When I have a project like this that goes for 5 years and there's lots of people, lots of regulations you have to deal with, lots of construction problems, you're always going to have a lot of problems with people, with activities and things of that nature. And Dan has really been the voice of reason through this process. He was our settlement guy. He resolved all the issues for us. And I just wanted to recognize him for that, because it was a tremendous effort on his part to solve a lot of the problems that we had between us and the contractors and all the different contractors and things of that nature. So Dan, thank you very much. And I'm going to finish by recognizing something that Bill already did, and that's Mr. Greg Combs of the, I believe he's manager of some of the regional parks down here. And in addition to his other job, he was totally dedicated to getting this done. And I got to tell you, Governor and Director Templeton, he was a tough boss. He was a very tough boss. He kept us on the straight and narrow the entire time. And his dedication is what got us through here today. There were a tremendous number of people that are responsible for having us here today. But he was always two things in my mind. First, representing the Department of Natural Resources with the utmost professionalism at every step of the way over the course of these 5 years. But secondly, from day one, he constantly reminded us that this park is going to be done right. It's going to be done with a high degree of quality and the best craftsmanship, because that's what the citizens of the state of Missouri deserve. And he kept through on that promise. So Greg, hats off to you, bud.